Okay.
related
Well,
to that.
I didn't really think, I didn't know it was supposed to be a lecture. So,
No, we can make it a Q&A totally.
well, we can.
I'm very resilient.
I think what we should do, I mean, looking at the body, it's a finite, ecosystem. Well, I mean, maybe what we could do is you can just say that, are we live now?
Yes, we are.
Oh, we are. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I'm usually always, can ask Peter, I'm usually always quite off the cuff. I think I, unless I'm actually like teaching a course or doing like a major lecture, like a 3-hour lecture or something. And I think the topic is probably, like, do you want to introduce me? Do you want me to introduce myself? What would you like to do?
Yeah, I would love to introduce you.
People know who I am.
So you guys, this is Juliana Lee. She is the owner of Adored Beast. She has an amazing bio. She has been, I think, a huge catalyst in holistic pet care. You are a homeopathic surgeon, which I'm really curious about what that actually means. and then I'm like, how do you do that? So that's super amazing. You've owned your own vet clinics. How many?
So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I managed. I was the head of a holistic wing for 2 of them, for 2 other ones, for 2 different clinics, for like two emergency clinics.
That's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing, because you're not a veterinarian. Not at all.
So my history is I grew up on a rescue, and I've always thought I was going to be a vet ever since I was a little kid. But then, life just changes, and my mom wound up putting me in an art high school, and I just didn't fit very well in the box, which I still don't. So my mom put me in an art high school, and I actually majored in dance. So I went to Russia, and dance and horses and animals were basically my life. And then I started really riding horses competitively, and I was on the Ontario team. And it just seemed to be like trying to make a decision to sort of stop everything and go back to school, and I didn't know what to do. So I actually wound up doing a vet tech course, and then I went back to school and did an equine science program at Humber College. And then I kind of mixed the 2 together, and I worked for an equine vet doing fertility ultrasounds, and I predominantly worked in the lab, doing autopsies, biopsies, kind of, pretty intense stuff at the vet clinic that I was working with. And then my dog wound up getting cancer. And I'm going to try to say this really quick, but I grew up in a very holistic family. Like, my mom was very much on the holistic and my grandmother side of the fence. And when I started doing, and that's why I have so much compassion, I think, for conventional veterinary medicine, because I actually grew up in that genre, right? Of holism, of looking at things as a whole. And when I went to school, I was so dedicated to the science, and I wanted to do so well by animals that I jumped the fence into completely conventional. So, my mom never vaccinated. My mom never vaccinated our animals. My mom and my grandma, all our animals always ate fresh food, not necessarily raw, but they also hunted. And I was like, everybody has to be vaccinated, and everybody has to go on dry kibble. And, I was, and they tried to support me because just what my family does. And it wasn't very far along in my career that my mom and my grandma kind of did an intervention with me and said, you know, Julie, we love you, we support you, we want you to do this. We know that this is your path, but ever since we've been doing this stuff, everything's getting sick, right? So we had old dogs, 17, big dog, 17, 18 years old, and think really they only saw a vet, and it was usually the farm vet when they got hurt, right? But we didn't have a lot of sickness. So anyways, my dog, I didn't listen to them. I'm so stubborn. I didn't listen to them, and I knew better. And so when my dog wound up getting cancer when he was 4, and I was devastated, and I went to my mom and I said, I don't know what to do. Like, I just don't know what to do. And she said, yeah, you do. Just get into your heart and you know what to do. And she said, give Virginia a call. So Virginia was our family's holistic practitioner, right? She was an herbalist and just like a healer. So I called her, and I took him to an internal an internal specialist and an oncologist, and he needed to have surgery to remove the tumor, and they were going to have to dissect his bowels or resect his bowels, and it was going to be a really difficult surgery. But they couldn't do it right away. So I worked with Virginia, and by the time I got back to have his surgery, they didn't have to resect anything. The tumor had gone from probably the size of a very, very small lemon to the size of a large grape. And it was completely encapsulated. And basically the vet said to me, I don't know what you're doing, but just keep doing it. So I decided in that moment that I was going to switch gears and move into something holistic. But I think I was very discouraged with conventional medicine. And because I was putting a lot of pieces together, but you know, nobody was listening to me. Like, after you vaccinate, all these animals seem to be getting itchier, and these seem to be happening. And anyways, I decided that I wanted to go to Spain after Rudy recovered and hang out with my girlfriend, and decide if I wanted to be a human chiropractor or a naturopath, or what my path was going to be. And I got sick, with I used to get hemorrhagic gastritis when I was stressed, and I would be sick for quite a long time. Anyways, I got that in Spain, and I wound up going to the hospital, and I thought, okay, well, there goes my holiday. And I was treated by a homeopath in the hospital. And in 2 days, I was backpacking in 2 days. And I thought, okay, like, this is a sign. This is like an intervention. So when I got back, I started looking at homeopathy and where I could go to school. And the only places that really had proper, like, 4-year programs and like 4-year medical programs was in England and France and Spain. And so I was going to move, but then I had to take my dogs and my horses and put them in quarantine. It was just a little bit of a stretch. So one of the professors contacted me and said they're opening a school at UBC in Vancouver. So I flew out and I applied, and I was accepted, and I wound up moving to Vancouver and taking the 4-year human homeopathic medical program. And this is where that surgeon thing comes into play, because what happened is like, the minute I got into this, I knew instantly I wanted to do animals and I didn't want to do people, even though I was in a human course. And I drove my one anatomy professor nuts. And he said, why don't you just go and do animal? Why don't you go do the animal course? And I said, because I'm not a vet. I can't. He said, well, you're a technician and you have a BSc in equine science and blah, blah, blah. And anyways, in England, it's called the British Homeopathic Veterinary Surgeons. And the reason that it's called that is because in England, you're not a DVM, you're a veterinary surgeon. That's your, as a veterinarian, you're called a surgeon. So in England, if you want to practice homeopathy, you, as a vet or as a medical doctor, you have to go to school for 3 years in order to be able to practice homeopathy. So it's not like you can just read a book and say you're a homeopath. So I I didn't know, but he really, I always say that I have angels on my shoulders from all my animals. And he got me into that program. And so I did 4 years at UBC, and then I did 3 years in England with the British Homeopathic Veterinary Surgeons program. And then I came back and I opened the first licensed holistic veterinary hospital, and practiced for 20 years. Yeah. And that's kind of where I am and how I am and who I am. And to be honest, it's like a gift from whatever you believe or whoever you believe, because my focus has always been that. So I had a licensed veterinary hospital, but I was able to, which meant I was able to work with oncologists in some of the biggest veterinary universities in the world, and did a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have done if I was a conventional vet, right? Because it's very hard to completely jump ship with that. So at one point I was thinking of going back to school and becoming a vet, and my mentor at that time was Dr. Susan Armstrong, who was a veterinarian in England. And she said to me, if you have 4 years to dedicate to becoming a veterinarian, what I would do is I would become a better homeopath, because they're not going to really teach you a lot that you don't know, but they're going to try and teach you a lot that you don't agree with. So after my 8 years of training, I dedicated myself going to India and working with Rajan Sankaran, going to Greece and working with Dr. George Volthoukas and all that stuff. So that's how I'm here, and I wouldn't change it for the world, because I feel like that experience has made me who I am.
I love that so much. I feel like adversity is always an opportunity.
Oh, yes.
I live by that. I absolutely live by that. You have more modalities than just homeopathy, but homeopathy to me is a rock star. I mean, like, it's jaw-dropping. I've seen results in 30 seconds. We talk a lot about homeopathy in this membership, or I do. I don't know if everybody else does. We discussed nosodes a couple of weeks ago, which a lot of people don't know anything about nosodes. So homeopathy is my jam, but I'm not a homeopathic veterinarian or a doctor. I just am a certified pet homeopath. So I took a year-long course, which I kind of kicked myself that I didn't just I'm like, it took you 3 years. Why didn't I do the 3-year course?
I've actually got 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So but I think, like, saying that, even that 1 year, where homeopathy shines is in your experience, right? Like how, like my prof used to say to me, school is your foundation, you're building your bricks, and that's the science. But the science and the art of homeopathy is your ability to energetically move through the experiences that you see, and it's almost like you build your own house, right? After you build the foundation, and that part of your own house is a very personal part, because I've seen miracles with homeopathy with every single type of homeopathy. Like, I've seen miracles with classical homeopathy. I've seen miracles with combination homeopathy. I've seen miracles with homotoxicology. Like, I've seen miracles no matter how it's prescribed on every level. And I feel like, when you say, well, I'm not a homeopath, or I'm not whatever, it's like, yeah, you are. Or like, I've only done 1 year and I'm only just it really doesn't matter. It matters how many lives you've touched and how much experience that you have with the remedies and what you see, right, in that library, in that bank that you create within yourself of knowing how they work, right? So Yeah, I think the really cool thing about that is that I do have a bunch of different modalities, but my hospital, my first hospital or my first vet clinic, they didn't know how to license me because I wasn't a conventional vet that then decided that I wanted to take some programs on holistic medicine, right? And then I just incorporated into my convention. I got licensed right from the get-go as a holistic veterinary hospital, a strictly holistic veterinary hospital, and they'd never done that. They didn't even have anybody in the US that they could bounce things off, right? They didn't even know how to license me. So I started off like that, and within 2 years, I opened a 7,000 square foot fully functional veterinary hospital with surgery and scopes and chiropractors and rehab tubs and everything. But still the difference, even having those modalities or even having those equipment and those modalities, our primary focus and the primary way we treated animals was holistically. And then I would say our adjunct was our additions or our things that we added on was the conventional part of it. So we were fully integrative, but we 100% focused on the holistic, more of the holistic modalities. And I think when you say that homeopathy is a rock star, I think it is. But where it gets complicated is because it is what threatens conventional medicine the most. It's the modality that threatens conventional medicine the most. So it gets the biggest rap. It gets the biggest, it doesn't work. It's because, when you can see, we had crash kits, we had everything, but an animal coming in with anaphylactic shock, right? And everybody's running for the crash kits and getting ready to, do massive intervention, understandably so. And I'm standing there with homeopathic remedies, rubbing them on their gums. And by the time they literally find a vein and get ready to give it to them, they're probably 60% better, So really bad, like Proteus infections, bacterial infections, where you treat with homeopathy and then you retest the urine and it's gone, right? With nothing else. And, so you can't, does it pin together a bone? Does it stitch that? No, right? But it is a modality in itself that can reduce the use of drugs and pharmaceuticals exponentially. So
yeah. I love that. I'm so excited. I'm freaking out inside and outside. So Julian, like when I first started being holistic focused, I was more into herbs. I do a lot with clay. So I do a lot with bentonite. I'm starting to incorporate a little zeolite. I love fulvic and humic acids, things like that, detoxifiers. What do you feel about detoxification, toxins, environmental toxins?
Well, that's kind of why I came up with the title. And it is like probably, even though homeopathy is my I would say my primary go-to in situations where animals need or people need acute and chronic too, but it's like the first thing I grab. But not very long after I was practicing, I started understanding the importance of gut. So I've been researching gut health for probably 26 years. And the reason is because when I was a newbie, it would take me a while to figure out what remedy I would want. So an animal would come in, I would give it a diet, and I would be working on what remedies to give. And ultimately, at some point in the animal's lives, whether it was once I gave a remedy, or if they were detoxifying, or it was a change in diet, or they had cancer, they had whatever, they would ultimately have an acute GI. almost always. And what I started noticing that I just couldn't not see is that when I treated their gut, everything got better. So they'd have, let's say they were I was treating them for cancer and they were doing really, really well. But then when I added on specific probiotics, they'd get better. That things would, tumors would start getting smaller, or be less necrotic, or pancreatitis would resolve faster, or I mean the list, allergies, like the list just would go on and on. So I started really delving into probiotics a long, long, long time ago. And when you ask me about detoxification and like humic and fulvic acid, sometimes I really drive people crazy, and it's hard for me to even talk for an hour, right? Because I when I say that I feel like we're in like a finite ecosystem, we are living in really weird times, and I feel like everything is a balance. Like we can't I know more holistic associations and practitioners and whatever that are as equally, and this isn't a slag or anything, but what's happening is because when I first started doing this in 94 really, people thought I flew in on a broom, right? Like there was no such thing as titer testing. There was no such thing as like commercially based raw foods. Like it was just like people thought my head spun around. And now it's like everything's holistic. Holistic is sort of a word that everybody uses for things that actually aren't holistic. They're natural, but they're not holistic because we're still compartmentalizing, like take this for your eyes, take this for your gut, take this for your skin, take this for your throat, take this for your immune system, take that. We're not paying attention enough to look at how everything is really like a finite balance. And I describe that by I often use the um, the story about Yellowstone Park and how they decided that they needed to cull all the wolves, right? Because some scientist or somebody decided that wolves were a predator that wasn't needed. And so they culled all the wolves, and from the day the last wolf was shot, they even had a name for her. The day the last wolf there was shot, within about 18 years, Yellowstone Park was going on its way to becoming a natural disaster. So trees were dying, water was drying up, all of the birds and lizards and aqua filters and all that kind of stuff were completely destroyed. And after about, I guess, 37 years, it actually was on the list of natural disasters. And then thank God someone realized, well, what happened? Like what happened back then? And then they realized it was the wolf. So they decided to reintroduce the wolves back into Yellowstone Park. And by reintroducing that one species, it completely turned the whole park around. So what happened was that one species, just removing one species of an entire ecosystem, unbalanced the ecosystem so much that it couldn't bring itself back to homeostasis. We're exactly like Yellowstone Park. We are, our dogs are, our horses are, our cats are, the planet is. We need to look at everything and what is its role in life. What's its role on the planet? What's its role in our body? Like to say that we need to never have salmonella, never have E. coli, never have Clostridium, never have any of these pathogens, it's just simply not true, right? And by our sort of egocentric idea that we have to destroy anything that's pathogenic, we are destroying along those bacterias provide something, right? They provide a diverse bacteria in the gut, which then provides our hormones, which then provides our immunity, which then it's like the gut is probably the gut is its own ecosystem and within itself that then speaks to the rest of the body. So when we look even at the skin, like I don't believe in bathing things, right? I don't believe in bathing an animal or bathing even ourselves. Like I don't believe in soap and um, in some instances, like where we are right now with COVID, that's even just a ridiculous statement. But just in general, because we have our skin is our first mode of defense, right? We have bacteria on our skin that is vitally important. But we're in this space where we feel like, oh, there's bacteria, we have to get rid of it. But that's just like bacteria is just one thing, bugs, um, weeds, like look what's happening. We don't have pollinators, we don't have bees, we don't have like it's just if we kind of can step back and look at everything as an ecosystem and how everything is bringing to the table something, even if we think it's not a good thing, it's bringing something, and we have to get underneath that and look at that.
So Julianne, we had a bee expert last week.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was so good. We had the bee man Dan, and he is like the monk of bees. He was amazing, and talked about how they have autoimmune disorders now. And in the back of my head, I was like, that just never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind that, we have autoimmune disorders now. Our horses, our dogs, our cats are having autoimmune disorders. I never thought the word autoimmune disorder would come up about a bee. And it was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because of a million different things, but the body eventually, when our natural way of defense is being broken down, and then the body is in a chronic state of defense, it's only a matter of time before then it starts to defending itself, against its own cells, against its own proteins, against its own whatever, right? It's autoimmune is a word for an underlying condition that something has created the body's response to attack itself, right?
Right.
So it makes total sense that they have autoimmune disease. Like for me, it makes total sense. They've been having to defend themselves with pesticides, having to defend themselves with cellular towers, with energy, with I mean, look what they've gone through. I mean, it just is a natural thing that then they're going to start to defend themselves against themselves, right? It just makes complete sense.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I'll hook you up with Bee Man Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he'd be a fun guest for you on your
I would love that. I would love that.
I'll share my interview with you because it was just so thoughtful. It was so beautiful. It was just cool.
I've kind of always been like that. Like I remember when more clinics were getting into holistic medicine, and I had I used to do study groups for veterinarians at my home, and they would come in and I would do all kinds of different things with them, and they couldn't believe why I wouldn't sell or promote or support shark cartilage. And I just said to them, like, how can you, like, all you guys want to be homeopaths, like how can you not see the energetic incompatibility or the oxymoron of torturing a living mammal in order for a dog and cat not to limp? Like it's just so against everything that holistic medicine is about. This is not holistic medicine. This is being a predator to whatever we can get a hold of in order to create something on the hierarchy of what we think is a hierarchy. So we think dogs and cats are a hierarchy than sharks, right? It's like we've decided what is the hierarchy of minerals. We decided that diamonds are more important than,
Cobalt.
yes, whatever, that was us that decided that. And because we mined something that we've chosen to be a hierarchy in the mineral, we're destroying the land, right? We're creating wars. We're just kind of, anyways, I can't really look at anything without looking at it in its entirety, or from a really high level, or from as an ecosystem. And how do we fit into the planet, and how do dogs fit into the planet, and how do our horses fit into the planet, and how do we all work together, and how do we figure this stuff out, right? I really believe, and I don't want to get into this, but I really believe that that's why we have COVID.
Right.
No?
You're the only other person I know that talks about shark cartilage like I do. I've like totally like no shark cartilage in my recommendations. I never even think about it. It's cruel what we put the sharks through. We've obliterated them.
It's
And
disgusting.
so let's recap on what holistic really means, because I love how you've touched on it. It's the whole body, right? It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing around you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say the whole body. I would say that, to me, holistic is the whole of everything, because I'm a homeopath. I believe so much in energy, right? Energy's everywhere. And when you walk outside and you put your foot on the ground, we know now that the energy of the earth feeds our energetic part of our body, right? Like we've done lots of science now showing the energies of trees, that the fact that a tree can communicate to another tree, the mother tree can communicate to another tree that's in the middle of the forest, because she knows that that tree is sick, so she can shut off a particular it's like a gas that is fed underground through mushrooms, through fungi to that tree. She can literally send that to that tree. So how do they talk, right? How do trees communicate? How do plants communicate? They communicate through a different kind of energetic thing that than what we consider communication, right? They communicate through specific different kinds of energies and stuff. So when we look at holistic medicine or holistic, I don't think we can look at anything without looking at its impact on the planet, its impact on the body. Does it create homeostasis in a whole? Is it creating homeostasis in the body? Is it creating are you feeding something to your dog or yourself that's actually creating destruction? Because I don't personally believe you can eat something and stay healthy when it has the energy of destruction that comes along with it. And I know that's getting pretty philosophical, but I would say holistic is looking at everything from mind, body, spirit to the body, and how the body and everything else is affected by its environment, and how not only what do we need to get to bring in, but what do we actually need to bring out. What what comes in goes out, and what goes out comes in. So if we're in a mind state, if our minds are in a place where we are just wanting to receive, we have to receive, don't get me wrong, like we have to be in a place of openness to receive, but we also have to be in a place to give, right? And it's a balance. So I think that's, to me, what holistic is. It's a constant movement that keeps the mind, body, spirit, and the planet in homeostasis, in that we all live in synergy within one big massive energy.
It's beautiful. I've never heard it said like that.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Sometimes I say to people and they have that, they say that, or they are like, they look like my dog. They look at me like, what? So yeah, I mean, some people really get that. They're responsive to it, they get that, and some people are just like, okay, that's just like way too out there. But then when I use the explanation or the story about Yellowstone, you can't negate that.
No.
Right? You can't say that that's not true. It happened with one species in a massive park. Like, can you imagine, like, they start putting them back in and rivers started flowing, right? Because
it's crazy.
Yeah, because the without the wolves weren't killing the elk. So the elk were able to reach up and they were destroying what the beavers were using for trees, for dams. So it completely rerouted the water system. And then the water system became dirt, and then trees started to die and the land started to, like, I mean, it just was just like this big, huge catastrophe.
It's such a delicate balance.
Oh, it is.
And it's just all communicating and relating. It's just incredible. It's mind-blowing, really.
Mm-hmm. It's mind-blowing, but it isn't. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's mind-blowing, but it is the course of evolution in life, right?
It's so simple.
It's so simple.
It's the way it's supposed to be, but we've changed so far away from nature.
Yeah.
We're just so disengaged.
I know. And looking at, I wrote an article once, nature versus natural, right? And how anything is most things are natural. I shouldn't say anything, but I mean, it's not difficult to find something natural, but it's more difficult to be, it's not difficult to find something natural. It takes more attention to be, to look at it from as nature would look at it, right? Because if we're going to, I always say, if we're going to use natural products as a group of people that are, on this path or have this vision, I think it's really important for us to step back and realize, again, we know very little, and we need to be learning from the main professor of what we're actually trying to teach and do, which is Mother Nature. The second we think we know more than her, we're on the wrong path, because we absolutely do not.
Right. We're playing gods at that point.
Yeah.
And who wants us to be God? Like, there's no way. That's scary.
Yeah. Well, we're setting ourselves up for failure, right? It's just like certain herbs are on the endangered wildlife or endangered species now, right? Because we've over harvested them, or we're not paying attention and we're planting things in the forest that is completely unbalancing the ecosystem, or we need to slow down a little bit and not be quite so egocentric, because we're humans and we know more, because we really don't. I mean, I think COVID taught, for whoever wants to listen, COVID taught that, because every scientist on the planet was, not every scientist, but there was a lot of scientists and a lot of people that don't believe in global warming and don't believe in that, saying we've come too far. We can slow things down, but it would take, there's no way we can do this, there's no way we can do that. And when the world kind of shut down in 2 weeks, things happened that set such a precedence that we would never have known, like air quality. You know, air quality in China saved more people than COVID killed.
Wait, say that again.
The air quality in China with the shutdown saved more people that would die from lung disease than what COVID killed, that who died from COVID. And that's not saying like how horrible it was, and no one wants anyone to die from COVID, my God. But it when you look at the statistics, it's less people die. Like the ratio of people dying in that time period when the pollution index dropped was greater than the people that died, right? And you know, there was so many different we could see the Himalayas for the first time in 70 years in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. So any scientists or anybody back then that are saying that we can't change our world needs to just be quiet, because it's clear we can. We definitely can, right? We just need to want to. You know, we had a species of turtles that were considered extinct lay something like, I don't even remember, I don't even want to quote it because I'm not sure exactly, but I think it was like 90,000 eggs on a beach because there was no one on the beach, right? So a specific beach, it just needs, they just need to have space in order to populate. And this particular turtle is really, really important for the ecosystem of the ocean. So a lot of people that were really following these turtles were really worried that the extinction of these turtles were going to make a really bad impact on what was happening in the ocean. And now they know why, because they didn't have anywhere safe to just go and lay their eggs, right? So
it's just shocking that pulling people away from the beach, giving them their space, and they rebuilt their whole species in one season almost. Like 90,000, or we don't know the real number, but yeah, that's just shocking. It's amazing.
And I think you know, you don't, all we're fed is all the scary stuff, all the negative stuff, all the horrible stuff. Well, how come no one's talking about the, you know, this incredible knowledge that we gained by lockdown? Like, how come we're not looking? Like, my mom died during COVID, and it was one of the worst experiences of my whole life because I wasn't allowed to go back. And so I'm not taking COVID not seriously, believe me, because it touched me personally. But what I am saying is that to allow all of this suffering and people to die for nothing, to not to learn anything, is such a sin to me, for me, right? It's like, yeah, scare people so that they stay clean, blah blah blah. I get it. Keep making, you know, making people safe. I get it. But why are we not, you know, why are we also focused on just getting a vaccine and not looking at really the true underlying reason that COVID even happened, so that we can stop it? Why not look at all the things we learned because of COVID, so that we can not only,
I agree.
Yeah, not only come out of COVID, but come out of COVID and have a healthier world, healthier environment, less sickness. No one's paying attention to that. And it's so sad. I mean, Jane Goodall, just listen to Jane Goodall. I mean, she's, to me, one of the most brilliant scientists in the world. I mean, she's saying that, you know, we've been saying this is coming for a long time. So anyways, I'm digressing, but
no, it's interesting because what I feel like COVID really did for the world is show people that the medical field really doesn't know what they thought they knew. So people putting their health in people's doctors' hands and not taking responsibility for their health, they realized that the medical field wasn't really all up and up, and that they didn't have people's health as their interest, but monetary interest.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was very, very clear that, okay, you guys have put your total faith in a healthcare system that doesn't care.
Yeah, and also in a healthcare system that really doesn't care why it happens, so they can stop it from happening again.
Right. Absolutely. So interesting.
We know, I mean, you can't tell me that there's not one doctor out there that won't stand in front of you and tell you that viruses morph all the time. They change. They, you know, what might happen. I'm not saying don't have a vaccine, and I'm not saying have a vaccine. I'm not even going to get even remotely in that debate. But even if they find a vaccine, you can bet your butt that if they don't figure out why it happened, it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen different. And it's just, and there won't be another vaccine for that mutated.
Right. You can't stay above that. It's such a steamroller.
Yeah.
There's no way they can create something like that.
It's impossible. I mean, it's why there's still the flu. It's why there's still, you know, you can give the flu vaccine out at the yin yang, but why are we still getting flus? Why are we still, it has nothing to do with vaccinations, right? It's got to do with an underlying deeper disease, you know, like dis-ease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so good. So good because, you know, polio is almost eradicated. The things that the vaccines did actually work on are eradicated, but flu is not. It's such a good point.
No.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were originally talking about gut health. We're in it for about 50 minutes. Julianne, what's your time like?
Well, we can definitely, do you want to take questions? Do you want to ask me something else about something?
I think my membership would love to ask questions, and I can get them unmuted, but I do think conventional, I just could talk to you all day. So I guess I should let everybody else talk. You guys, those of you on the Zoom, go ahead and unmute yourselves, turn on your videos, whatever you need to do, and ask whatever you want to ask. I do have a horse question for you, and this is, so I'm seeing so much metabolic disorder and founder things like that nowadays. Metabolic disorders in all animals, right?
Yep.
I've had 2 horses from the same client do this long-term chronic founder laminitis with a metabolic tie. We've seemed to get the metabolic issue pretty well balanced, but the gut health is destroyed. And we notice that anything added into the horse's system can launch it into some crisis and ultimately death. But so we have this pony, same owner, they are very aware of blood sugar, they have low insulin diets, they're doing everything right, and this pony ends up cushingoid with high insulin, low or normal glucose, really high insulin. Yeah. And it's just been super complicated for all of us to, they had a cornfield next to them that was harvested, which was probably sprayed. Yeah. And that's when the pony started foundering, is around that time. There was, yeah.
So, I mean, when you say you love minerals and clays and fulvic and humic acid and stuff, you know, with glyphosates, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest things that you want to be using is things like humic and fulvic acid, right? Because any kind of toxins like that can destroy the gut lining. So what is kind of cool about fulvic and humic acid is that now they can actually make some health claims saying that it helps to repair the mucosal lining. So not only does it draw out toxins, but it does actually help. But is this pony like let out all the time? Like what, how is he housed?
So now he's just in a gigantic box stall with a run and he's in diapers and boots, and he looks amazing. Like when you look at him, you'd be like,
why is he in diapers?
because he's foundering or laminitic sore, and he might be stable, but he has some.
Oh, diapers on his feet?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, what? Oh my God, a diaper on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's sore-footed. The interesting thing is he's good in the evening and really sore first thing in the morning. So we were implementing the Chinese calendar time clock, and it seems like it's probably his liver in that, like one of the owners seems to leave him around like 9, 10 at night. When she shows up at 6 a.m., he is pretty jacked up. I started him on our Arsenicum album. We were doing some other things and it was kind of helping, but nothing big. But the Arsenicum album seemed to have this pretty decent turnaround, but it's not sticking. Like he'll get comfortable, we're suppressing it basically and creating a suppression. He is on humic acid and he's on a lot of other things. And hay, that's only 6% non-structured carbohydrate.
And is he on any drugs for the pain?
So no, because his pain's pretty well managed, but he is cushingoid. So I finally just said, let's bite the bullet and start him on a low dose of Presen. So I hated to do it, and I've been able to pull most horses out of it without doing it. And I've seen Presen tear up gut health, but I've also seen it work really well.
Well, you should go on. There's one I'm gonna actually have her on next Wednesday on my Ask Me Anythings. Sarah Griffith. She just wrote a 2-part article about equine metabolic disease. And again, it is a really finite thing to be looking at. It could be everything from horses have a lot of, I think horses have more stress in their life than almost anything else, like as far as companion animals go. And I believe that a lot of their I mean, when you look at vaccine, I don't know if this pony's been vaccinated or I don't know its history, right? But sometimes it's almost like the last drop in the bucket. So the metabolic syndrome could be just have been here for a long period of time. I don't know whether they've what kind of grain they fed him earlier, or he's never been on grain, or we don't know how long this pony has been, or maybe we do, but like often with horses you just don't know how long they've been functioning at a level that a human couldn't function at, right? They're so resistant and so resilient, and then all of a sudden something happens, like a spraying, right? Like spraying in a chemical, and it's just like the last drop. So I would be definitely supporting his liver, and I would be definitely, I don't know who's trimming him, like what they're doing with his feet, but definitely somebody that really knows their stuff about barefoot trimming, like really understands it, but also understands that you can't put them back in balance all at once. Like it has to be a shift that is so small and but often, right? And I don't know what you're doing with his gut, but I don't, unless you I would say almost every horse has some kind of gut issues, whether it's upper ulcers or lower ulcers. They just don't have a species oriented lifestyle most of the time, right? From either diet or being in a stall or being ridden when they don't want to be ridden, or like there's could be a million trillion different things. So I would be really focused on this pony's gut, and when you say he's managed, his pain is managed, is his pain managed because he's got pads on his feet and he's confined? Is that how they're managing the pain?
And homeopathy.
And with homeopathy.
So the videos of him, they take videos every single day for me. And by the afternoon and evening, he's stepping out like you would never even know he's in a crisis. But the first step out in the morning is pretty jacked up.
Right.
So,
and have you tried like Russ Talks and things like that with him?
I haven't.
Okay. Because Russ Talks is like, that's its keynote, is like worse on initial movement, right? Like
Okay.
the first couple steps. But I would also really be working on his gut, like massively. And I'm super excited because we're about to launch a horse gut soothe. And you know how we have a canine probiotic it's the only species oriented probiotic in the world, right? Our Phytosphlora, because it's a probiotic made from dog feces. I mean, that's what it's made from. It's the only probiotic that's not a human probiotic. It's specifically a dog one. So we've done the same thing with horses. So this new product that I'm launching has an equine species oriented probiotic in it. And then it also has 14 strains and whatever, but I would definitely be working on his gut. And I'm just going to tell you right now, Mark Elliott, he was one of the vets that I interned with in England. He's a veterinary surgeon, but also an incredible homeopath. And he taught me about a Cushing's protocol when I was just a newbie. I've never not been able to handle a Cushing's case without this protocol. I've never had to have a horse or dog have to go on a drug with this homeopathic protocol, which is Quercus robar and ACTH.
Okay.
So if you email me, right, I'll email you that protocol because it's incredible. It really is, because if you're going to give him the drug, I'm not saying, because I mean he has to stay alive, but if you give him the drug's suppressing it, right?
Right.
So you're going to have something has to give at some point. So are you ever going to get rid of the laminitic issue when you're suppressing another disease? So I'd be working on his gut. I'd be working on his mental state. Is he happy? Are they doing lots of like stuff with him? Are they trying to? I have such different opinions about metabolic disorder, because I've seen horses that have had metabolic disorder and have foundered their whole life, and you heal their gut and they can go out into a field of grass that's up to their waist.
Wow.
And not get sick.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean cow grass, because that's a different story. And I'm talking like I have a 25-acre pasture for my horses, and it's like the biggest pasture of weeds and alders, and just like people go, why don't you cut it, and why don't you seed it, and why don't you make it look pretty like like the Florida thoroughbred horse ranches? It's like, because that's not what they're supposed to be eating. They're supposed to be eating weeds. They're supposed to be scavenging on stuff, right? So and also what I would do is take a look at, I think it's probably going to go out today or tomorrow. Sarah's written a metabolic, like I said, a metabolic article, a 2-part metabolic article, and she's incredible when it comes to horses. Sarah Griffith.
Okay, thank you.
She's also a homeopath. So
yeah, I've seen her on your lives before.
Yeah.
She's kind of your protege.
She is.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, thank you very much. I can't wait to dive into this new opportunity.
Are you giving him probiotics now?
Yeah, he's on some probiotics, aloe vera, marshmallow root. I don't think we have him on slippery elm. I don't know like there's so many probiotics out on the market on the range of like $25 to 300. And their last horse, we actually did some fecal transplants and it did seem to help, but we didn't do enough. So I'm super excited about your new product coming up because, you know, I reached out to a vet who had done it on poles and I go, hey, look, we're at a loss on this. What do you think? Can we try it? And he goes, yeah, just try it. But it's hard to find a good donor.
I know, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting about doing it when it comes to probiotics, because the fermentation piece of it negates that stuff, right? So when you're doing a fecal transplant, which I completely agree with, don't get me wrong, but it's like giving it's like giving a heart transplant to someone that's sick, right? The body will reject it. Sometimes if the body's not healthy enough to actually do what it needs to do with the transplant, it will reject the transplant because it's something foreign. So that's why I decided to go the route of creating species-oriented probiotics, because it's coming from the actual species and the DNA of the species, but we're not shocking the body by transplanting, right? So you do all the stuff in order to make sure that they transplant themselves, but not in such a shocking way, right? And with less concern about, you know, I mean, they're even saying that transplants now can give personality changes, right? So, you know, they've done a lot of fecal transplants with mice and stuff. And if you transplant a mouse that's anxious to a mouse that's not anxious, the non-anxious mouse will get anxious.
That's amazing. That's like an organ transplant.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's probably got more, your gut has way more intellect and education than the rest of your organs. So it's telling your brain what to do. Your gut's telling your brain when to fire serotonin, when to do like when to do everything. Basically, it's like everything comes from your gut and goes into your brain, and then once your brain kind of knows it, then there's usually this standoff, right? But yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense with transplants that it would do that. So I would definitely, you know, N-acetylglucosamine, like our gut soothe for dogs works amazing with horses, but it's expensive to use because you have to use more. But with a pony, with a little pony, I would just, if they can afford it, just until we can get you the equine one, I would just start the gut soothe on him. I healed two rescues that had really bad ulcers with my canine gut soothe.
They actually own it.
They own what?
The gut soothe for their dog.
Well, they should be giving it to their pony. They should be giving, like, if they can afford it, and like I said, until we can get this other, if they can get like close to a tablespoon into him a day, it would be really helpful.
I will let them know right away.
Okay. And they like the taste of it, so it's good.
Right on. I'm so excited because they just started the Pergolide maybe 2 days ago, and it's just 1/8 of a pill. Like it's just a tiny
bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you guys hop on there. Who wants to be next? I know somebody brought up bowel nosodes. Janice Doyle. She was like, "What about bowel nosodes?" So
someone's putting their hand up over here too. So I don't. Who am I starting with?
Unmute yourselves, you guys. I can't see all of you. Hold on. Let me change screens for you.
Kimberly's putting her hand up.
Okay, Kimberly, go for it. Yes.
Oh, I'm amazed I've got on live. So my little guy, he's about 15 and a half years old. He's about 8 pounds. He has pancreatitis. He's the third dog I've had that's had pancreatitis. So this happened in January. My vet is integrative, and anyways, we found out he has pancreatitis. No, his kidneys are fine. But anyways, he seems to be getting it chronically. 7 weeks ago, again, he had another bout. take him in. Of course, it's $500 to $1,000 every time he has a bout. Just had another one again about a week ago. So in all of this, I ended up getting a customized diet made from a vet in the States. I live in Canada. So I paid about $200 and something for this vet thing. He was on the probiotic Your Gut, the Adored Beast gut piece, and on Green Lipid Muscle. And I was putting him on some things. I was working with Poppy. Anyways, with this latest one, my vet, of course, wanted to immediately switch him over to kibble. And I said, Rob, I'm not doing that. So we're not even having that conversation. His, so I had blood values and everything done. His special CPL is at 1685. So that's his pancreatic value, which normal 0 to 200, right? So that's the one that Rob is really, really concerned with. And he has said for a month, would you just put him on, he's got him on canned food. I've got 3 low fat. Gizmo does not like them. I have to rotate them. He shoves them across the floor. I have a difficult time getting food into him. He'll eat them for a couple of days and then he'll switch off. So I have to have different ones. I have the only treat I'm giving him is like a homemade kangaroo jerky that I get off the person that was home making his diet. And as well, he wanted him off the gut, Your Gut Health, and he wanted him on something called Digest 7. So I said, fine, I'll do this for a month. And he also put him on a Chinese herb, and I can't even say the name of that one, and it's downstairs.
Who's your vet?
It's Dr. Rob Butler.
Okay.
I'm in Guelph, Ontario, so we have a vet school here, right? And it's very, very difficult to find integrative vets, let alone homeopathic ones.
Yeah.
So first of all, Poppy incidentally sent me an article this morning, and it's about that you had written about chronic pancreatitis, about SIBO. So I'm going to forward that article to my vet. But I'm like, why am I having such a heart? Like, why? All 3 dogs have come out of the same house. So the first one, I lost 2 of them 21 days apart in 2017. The first one had pancreatitis and then kidney disease. The second one died 21 days later, and she had a bout of pancreatitis, but she had diabetes. So all these dogs that have come out of the same house have had something. And now Gizzy here, 15 years, he's been fine. And then all of a sudden starts with the pancreatitis. So I mean, when those 2 dogs died, I changed up everything. I went to raw, so I'm wondering, what do I do? Like, why, or where do I go? I get really scared at this point when they get sick.
Well, is he doing anything for pain with your dog?
Oh, well, I have medication. I have Serenia here.
But medication.
And I have gabapentin. I think if I'm saying that correctly.
Gabapentin.
Thank you, yes.
Do you, and you say he's integrative?
Yes.
Okay. Does he do homeopathy?
He does. Well, he does Chinese herbs. So if I take Giz in, if he has a bout, he'll do the vitamin B12 shot, the shot of Serenia. He'll do acupuncture using Nox Vomica. And he will do fluids.
Okay.
With Gizmo. Now, this last time we did the full blood panel, and every 6 months I do a senior blood panel.
Well, it's hard to know. It's interesting that all 3 dogs got.
I know, very interesting. Like that year.
You don't have mold in your house or anything like that? Have you checked your house for mold?
No, not that I'm aware of. It's a relatively newer house.
And what about where you live? Like, is there any?
Oh, now we moved here only 7 years ago. So the other 2 dogs, but it's interesting that all the dogs we did have, they all came out of the same house, not the same parents, but. And
are they the same breed?
Yeah, little ones, like all a mix of the Shih Tzu Pom, like this one's a Lhasa Apso Pom Chihuahua.
Okay, but not from the same breeder or anything.
All from the same home. Yep.
All from the same home.
Yeah, same breeder.
And since you've put him on the low fat and everything that he's saying, is he getting better?
Well, I had him on this low fat customized diet that I have homemade, rather than I took him off the raw because it was too high fat. Yeah. And Rob okayed the diet. It's very low fat. And so he even asked me to take him off that because he said, is she making it the same way every time? So I mean, I'm talking to.
Because he had an episode on that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. he wants me on this canned stuff, but it's like Hill's like, I do not like him on this stuff. But I will for a month until we do the blood values again and see if they come down. I will do that to see if it makes a difference.
And is he supporting, I guess he's supporting the liver and the pancreas and the kidneys?
Yes, with this Digestin 7, he said it has more of the probiotic for the pancreatitis, for the pancreas. And then this Chinese herbs, yes, that's what they would be specifically for. Let me see if I can talk.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's hard to go against your vet or whatever, right? Like I really can't do that, but
Yeah, no, and I'm willing to do what he's asked for a month. Let's see what
Yeah,
the blood values
but-
come back.
but what I would do, I mean, if he wants, I would be really happy to talk to him. You know, like if he's willing to speak with me, I would be happy to talk to him because we have, you know, there's all different, we know like with the fat and all that stuff with pancreatitis as a, we have to be careful with it once they've had it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think when it comes to probiotics, we have some really cool information on our with our phytophthora, right? So it's all the information that he's giving you is information with people, right? So like, you know, it's helpful for people like that species that he's talking about. The one that has it, we know when we were talking about autoimmune, you know, from the beginning, it's like, okay, what causes it? Like, why does he all of a sudden get pancreatitis? Like what's the reason that he's getting pancreatitis? So is it, you know, is it immune mediated? Is it like, what's the underlying problem? So I would be doing exactly what he said, but if he wants to talk to me, I would be putting him on a homeopathic protocol for pain. And I would be doing it, pain and scarring. And I would be giving it to him every single day. So it depends on what his philosophy is on homeopathy, because a lot of vets don't, you know, if they're Pitcairn trained, they won't do remedies every single day. But
yeah, he's open to listening to what I have to say.
that's
So
good.
he is good that way, because I'm also into essential oils, and he'll say, so what does that other lady say? So Dr. Janet Rourke, right?
Yeah.
You know, so he is open.
So I would be totally open. Like, Poppy, you can get a hold of me. If he wants to talk to me directly, I can tell him what remedies that homeopathic remedies that's really helped me in chronic pancreatitis cases.
Oh, I would really appreciate
I have sort of like a homeopathic protocol that I give to dogs that have chronic pancreatitis.
it. Okay, because I think that's what we're looking at is chronic, right?
Yeah, if he keeps having bouts of it,
Yeah.
something going on. I mean, I don't know whether you want to consider it chronic. That would be up to him because I haven't followed the case. But yeah, I like giving advice to, or like working, not advice, but I like brainstorming with vets and sort of giving them my, you know, my experience with certain things, especially cases that are constantly reoccurring like that, you know.
Well, I think the next thing he is saying, like, is if we can't get a handle on this, he wants to do an ultrasound, right, to see if there's a tumor.
Tumor,
So,
yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, and we would do that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that too. So I'm hoping that the blood values are down and that we're just dealing with chronic. Anyways, either way, it's not great.
So, but did the blood values go down before, and then when he has another episode, they go back up? So,
seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. So something's creating that, right? And it could be a tumor. It's always good to find out if that's what it is. It could be some kind of an obstacle to cure something that's happening. I find that pain often causes that chronic pain, because like I said, like animals are so resilient, and they really, some animals, they just don't show their pain. And
I know.
But what happens though is that the chronic pain increases the cortisol level, and then when the cortisol level goes up, it can trigger pancreatitis.
Yeah.
So having that pancreas, if it is always hurting or always off, then it stimulates the cortisol, and then we can keep having this like reoccurrence, right? No matter
That
what
would make sense.
with diet or whatever. So what has helped me a lot is making sure they're out of pain, like giving
Okay.
giving them pain medication for a really long, not medication, homeopathy for pain, every day for like a long time until
That makes sense.
sometimes 60 days, because it takes that long for that whole loop to happen, right? So the pain reduces, and then the cortisol level starts to come down, and the pain reduces, and the pain reduces. So it just takes a while for them to spin out of that cortisol pain acute hamster wheel.
That makes a lot of sense, because I know when we had the little dog with kidney disease, like they masked the pain so well by the time we found out she was at stage 3, right?
Yeah.
Probably spent $15,000 trying to keep her alive. But at that point, and that's why I do the senior blood panels, right? To see if we can catch anything when it's really,
Does your dog
really
drink
early.
a lot of water? Does he drink enough? Does your dog drink enough water?
Well, he drinks more than my other one, but of course, with doing this, I used to add even water into his food, and we're still seeing the chronic. Now I've cut all that out. I'm just doing exactly what Rob is asking me to do. I change the water every day.
Yeah. That is what you should do, is do exactly what he said.
Yeah.
And then just sort of, I'd have no problems talking to him directly.
Okay.
And just from my experience, what I've seen with that, and you can just say that, I find that if we can stop that underlying sort of chronic pain that we may not be even seeing,
Yeah.
it helps their cortisol levels and seems to balance things out. So
Yeah, like with this dog, my other ones, if they got the pancreatitis, like had an episode of it, I would have them into the emerge vet, sometimes for 5 days in a row. This guy here, how I know is he either gets sick a little bit or he starts pushing his food away. And I know we're into it. So we haven't had to do the emergency vet thing. So it tells me he's a tough little guy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Lucky that way. Less expensive.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh my
Really
God.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Melissa has a question, Julie, if you have time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hey there, we have a 9-month-old Labradoodle. It's going to be my daughter's service dog, and we've tried to be very careful. We've not always been holistic, but she has an almost 11-year-old service dog that we've been working with Poppy and Janice, who's a homeopath, because he had oral cancer. And so we wanted to be super careful with this pup and do everything right. However, he has had weak digestion since we brought him home. So his poop looks like cow pie poop. It's runny. If he takes a bite of the other dog's cooked food, it's runny, or he vomits. And then this morning, for the first time, of course, my daughter's 12, so it scares everybody. He's asleep, 5:30. We hear a noise. He wakes up, and there is vomit. He vomited 3 times, and it was lots of yellow bile-looking stuff. And he's only had 1 vaccine after his initial puppy shots. We've not even gotten his rabies yet. We have tried colostrum. We have tried probiotics. It makes him have loose stool. We're just at a loss. The only thing that seems to help just a little bit is to do some of the Stella and Chewy's dehydrated. But we're just at a loss. And he's 9 months old. So we know that gut health is important, because we are those people. Both of my kids are medically fragile. We know a little bit about humans, but not a lot about dogs. He's also had some homeopathy constitutional work as well.
Okay. And what are you feeding him now?
So right now he's eating Instinct Natural. It's kibble.
Kibble.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do well on raw. Is that the reason?
Well, we've tried bites of it here and there, and he vomits, or he has lots of diarrhea. Oh, we can't do raw. So my daughter's correcting me because she's sitting here. We can do raw because both of my kids are primary immune deficient. So if the dog has something on their mouth and it's transferred, like she's had salmonella twice and we don't know where. So we don't know how to do raw and keep the kids safe. We talked to the Pete about it, who's open. She has a service dog as well. She's open to anything and she's very integrative, but we just have not figured out how to do raw unless he's fed and then we wash his face. But I'm not always here to do that.
So, but he can do dehydrated?
Stella and Chewy's dehydrated pellets. I just started trying those at nighttime just to see if I could see a change in his stool. And I feel like it looks more formed. If I'm not here and he doesn't get that, then I feel like it looks more runny again. So I do feel like the Stella and Chewy's pellets and the dehydrated, that he does have some form, but we don't know. And then 2 weeks ago, silly Goofus, I think, ate a mushroom in the yard and had lots and lots of diarrhea.
And you worked with a homeopath?
We gave him arse that night, lots of arse,
Okay.
lots and lots of arse. And I don't know if this is residual, like, do we need to clear the rest of the mushroom stuff energetic? He's never vomited. And when that happened this morning, I was like, enough is enough. He's 9 months old and we've been super careful. Like, you don't want a 9-month-old puppy who you've been super careful with. You want to know what's right. You want to move forward. You want him to have his best life.
Oh,
You want him
yeah.
to be healthy.
And when did he eat the mushroom?
It was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And did he throw up right away when he ate the mushrooms?
He had diarrhea in my house, which he has not had any accidents since the day. Well, one accident when we brought him home originally. He never vomited, but toward the end, he had this episode that I thought looked like a seizure. It was kind of like a backward sneeze. He was aware. He didn't urinate on himself, but it was, he did that twice. And then everything stopped. The diarrhea, I gave him, I just kept giving him arse every time he had an episode. And our homeopath stayed up with us to work with us during the night while this was going on. But he's always had cow pie poop. He tries to eat the dog with cancer's poop. Now we have another dog who doesn't want her poop.
Is he skinny?
No, here, I'll turn my camera around. He's not skinny. My daughter says yes, but he's 9 months old. And I don't think that looks skinny.
Well, it's hard.
He's like 65 pounds or 70 pounds at 9 months old. Come here, buddy. I don't think he's skinny. I can't feel ribs.
Okay, so this is first thing that I would do, because exactly like you said, you don't want a dog at 9 months old. Like you want to try and derail whatever you can so that he has a healthy life.
Right.
First thing I would do is get some blood work done on him.
Okay.
So just to be sure that, and again, when we're talking about pancreas, that he has the enzymes, proper enzymes to absorb his food, right?
Okay.
So, like, make sure that he doesn't have like a pancreatic insufficiency or something like that, especially when he does that time he threw up and it was like bile. I would definitely get some blood work done.
Okay.
And as far as products go or whatever, what the other thing, if you can't, if I couldn't feed raw and he can tolerate a dehydrated, I would be doing dehydrated. And then I would probably be giving him a digestive enzyme. I would reconstitute the dehydrated with like a bone broth, right? Like a really non-fatty bone broth. And then I would add a digestive enzyme to it.
No.
I would add a digestive enzyme to it, and then I would put a really good probiotic in it. So if you're going to look at our products, I would recommend Healthy Gut, right? And I always tell people to start off with half a dose of things and start off with one product at a time. So I think the first thing I would probably start off with, if he's doing that, like chronic diarrhea, I think I would probably do the dehydrated food, the broth, and then I would give him our gut soothe, right?
Okay.
And then try the gut soothe and see how he does on gut soothe for a while, and then wait for maybe 3 weeks, and then maybe I would add a digestive enzyme to that, which is our healthy gut. And then 3 weeks after that, I would add Phytosflora. And then what you do is you just alternate them. So you're not giving him 3 different products all the time. Once you see that he can handle all of them, then you rotate them. You can do one day one day the next, one day the next, or you can do 1 week one week the next one week, because each one of those products feeds the gut, but it also works on a specific system in the body. And the fact that he's getting these cow patty poops, that's why I would be checking him with the vet to be sure that he's actually got the enzymes to digest his food, because he's so young,
Yes. Okay.
So that's what I would do with him.
Okay. Thank you very much. That
You're
gives us a little bit of a plan, which
Yeah.
is helpful, very helpful.
And you don't want to do this, but sometimes, we were talking about SIBO. If dogs are young and they are chronically getting diarrhea, and I don't want you to put them on antibiotics, but if they go on antibiotics and it clears up the diarrhea, that often is pointing to something called SIBO, which is a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So I wouldn't go that route right now. I would try those things to see if we can decrease some of the inflammation, help him digest his food, get him on a better quality food, and see how he does.
Okay. Okay. We have a holistic vet. We know
Oh,
actually
good.
several. Yeah,
And
we
get them
know
blood work.
several. Yeah,
You get
that's
blood
what I'll do.
Sure.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Francesca, did you want to hop in and ask a question? Or did you want me to for you? Let me see.
Whichever one we should do.
You shoot. You go ahead.
Wobblers or EPM?
EPM.
Okay.
So Francesca, you're asking about EPM or wobblers?
Whichever one you want to talk about. They both have issues, 2 different animals. So
Okay. So the EPM is clinically guaranteed. The wobbler that you have, you didn't do diagnostics with. They're just saying it's wobblers, right?
the vet did diagnose her and said it's coming from the spine down. They've done x-rays and stuff.
Okay.
So, but I noticed that when we did the that last injection on that leg, then she went incontinent and stuff. So I'm wondering, and her stomach's been growling, and so I'm wondering
And
if
this is with what? Okay, so
she's a 9.5-year-old Doberman,
okay.
and I'll go on. My phone's being goofy. So she's a 9.5-year-old Dobie that was diagnosed with wobblers years ago. And she has, the last was about 6 months. It was in June. She had an episode and she fell on the ground and went completely paralyzed. Like she had one good leg. So my vet said that it was probably because I raw feed and that she got a bacterial infection. And that's the cause of, he's anti-raw. So he said that it's probably what caused it. So he hooked her to IVs. And she sat at the vet clinic for a week on IVs, and he pulled her out of whatever was wrong. But it's kind of a mystery. And then he pumped her up with gabapentin, Proyan, what's the other one? Desmopressin shots, because she has like an incontinence issue because she's a Doberman, and she's had incontinence issues since she was 1.5 years old when I got her. But so now her stomach gargles a lot. I took her off of the gabapentin because it was like paralyzing her, and she would walk 2 steps and fall over. And the vet said that's just because her Wobbler's disease is getting worse. So we decided, we took her off of everything and stripped her of everything. She's still on raw, and I've kept feeding her raw her whole life since she was 1.5 years old. But she has a lick sore on the front of her leg that I think is causing a lot of her her neurologic issues.
She's
but
got
she's
she's got what on her front leg?
she's got, here, I'll show you.
Like a lick granuloma? She's licking it?
Yeah, and so they injected it 2 weeks ago, and then she started going even more incontinent. Let me see if I can flip the camera.
Oh yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then her stomach gargles all the time. I mean, it's
How old is she?
9.5.
So can she walk now?
So she walks pretty good. She's on, what's it called, Poppy? The pronunciation?
I put her on Costicum.
Okay. Yeah.
She's pretty much on that. And then she's on a hip joint and muscle supplement and salmon oil and raw fed, and pretty much kept her, simplify things
Yeah.
because she's sensitive to everything.
She's sensitive to everything.
Yeah, because when he injected that, it left a hole in it. Like there's a little injection mark right where he put the Dex in.
You know what did he give her? What did he inject her with?
Dex and something, a steroid. So when she sleeps, she floods everything.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah, it's hard, right? Because anytime you're gonna give a steroid, you're suppressing the main disease, right?
Mhm.
So I think how often are you giving her Costicum?
Let's see. I gave it to her this morning, and then I'll give it to her this afternoon. She gets 5 pellets,
Twice
so
a
like twice a day, or when she starts falling over. Like if she starts having issues walking and falling over or doing the splits, then I give her some.
And you can't you can't, there's like nothing that's common that when she has an episode.
What do you mean?
Like, does she have an episode? Have you ever kept track of when she has an episode? Like, and see if it has anything to do with like you being gone a lot that day, or a particular kind of protein, or have you ever tried to see when the episodes come?
It's pretty much when she gets to moving too fast, she falls. So
Oh,
like I have
oh.
tile flooring, and if she walks too fast on the tile, she'll slip and fall,
Okay.
or all of a sudden she'll go weak on,
Yeah.
um,
So
that type of thing. Or my shepherd will bump into her and boom, she does the splits.
Okay. And then after that, she's worse.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, and I noticed like she does weird things, like she'll get sore and she'll like move her mouth a lot. Like right now she's moving her mouth.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would, you see, this is sort of a case where I would do a lot of stuff, right? Like I would be, I'd have like high potency arnica on hand every time she gets bumped, every time she does the splits, every time she does something, I would be giving. What I'd probably do, I mean, Poppy, you're giving her Costicum and stuff, but I have a combination remedy called Jump for Joints. And I would even be trying that with her, right? Because when what happens is that when the spinal cord there's something wrong with the spinal cord, it can't give the body signals if it's doing the right or wrong thing, right? So she does the splits, then it's no longer about her spinal cord and all about probably her pulling tendons and stretching ligaments and maybe causing inflammation in one of the vertebrae. So I would be giving, like, Jump for Joints has some Phytum, arnica, ruta, and calendula in it. So I like giving her something like that on a regular basis. Hopefully what it would do is that even on a good day, she's probably compromising her muscular skeletal system because she's not she can't focus on holding her body together correctly.
Yeah, like she was out in the yard this morning running and she fell over.
Yeah. So now she's probably going to be sore because of that, right? So
Yeah.
if you're doing sort of like a jump for joint every day, because you never know when she's going to fall over. It's almost like, it's not like it's preventative homeopathy. It's almost like a structural homeopathy where we're supporting the physiology that we know with this particular disease is going to be really at risk, or is at risk all the time, like every day.
Yeah, and he was putting her on gabapentin 4 pills a day, which was making her weaker.
Yeah, no, I would try jump for joints, and I would do it like 3 times a day for a week, and then twice a day, and just try and see if it makes it better. And I would put her on, I know this isn't just about my products, but I would put her on Phytosynergy, and I would put her on Phytosflora. That's what I would do, because all those drugs are not saying that she doesn't have to have drugs. That's not what I'm saying, but they're trashing.
No,
They're really
the
wrecking her.
drugs don't do well with her. I have an autoimmune disease myself, and anytime I take any type of medicine, it just tears my stomach apart. So yeah, and she was on that, and it was not doing her any justice. So the vet pretty much said, when it's her time, euthanize her, because he's throwing his hands up in the air.
Well,
So
I would do those 3 things, and
then take her off the joint supplement I have her on, and
no, don't take her off. Don't take her off of anything. Just add, because if you take her off something, and then it's hard to know what we'll be doing what then.
Okay, cool.
Just checking my phone, sorry. No
Yeah.
problem. You guys, Julianne has been more than generous with her time. I'm really, and these aren't easy cases, so thank you, Julianne. She's live every Wednesday at Pacific Standard Time. It's 4:00. I don't know what it is your time.
It's 8:00 my time, 7:00 Eastern Standard Time, and I take questions, and I have different EPM, like, is it a horse that has EPM? Equine protozoal myeloencephalitis. It's a horse, eh?
Yes, it's a horse.
If you want to come on Wednesday and ask that question, you should do that. I had the love of my life horse die from EPM, and he was misdiagnosed for a really, really long time. So I've dedicated a lot of time and energy about researching EPM and how to support it, and kind of how to look at it from a different level. Like, I look at EPM as almost like a protozoa Lyme disease. So if you want to jump on Wednesday and ask us that questions, because it's Sarah on Wednesday, right, Stephanie? Yeah. So and that's that she's the horse whisperer. She's a horse nutritionist and homeopath. She's incredible. So if you wanted to jump on with that, I can answer some questions about that on Wednesday.
Cool. She's 7. She's not that old. She just came home from Florida. She was being leased and came home with a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, every one of Francesca's horses were diagnosed with either EPM, a different strain of EPM, or polyneuritis, and she has 4 horses at home right now.
Yeah.
But the one that's 35, he's doing great. Let's not jinx it.
Yeah.
He's doing
All right.
amazing.
Well, if you want to come on and get some information about that on Wednesday, that'd be great. I have to jump off because I actually have an appointment. So thank you for having me on. It's
an absolute pleasure. I hope we didn't bombard you and suck the energy out of you.
It's fine. It's fine. It's all good.
You're such a gift. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great day, you guys.
You too.
Bye. Thank you.